Hey, here we are again with the next chapter of the Robertson kilt that's in for alteration. And of course, here's your usual motion sickness alert. Close your eyes. How's that looking then? Right. So I've let out the aprons. And of course, as we can see now, the canvas is a bit too short. No, the canvas is in good repair. It's not at all damaged. So rather than take it out and therefore having to charge the customer many more hours of work to put in an entirely new canvas, I'm going to splice an end on. And the way I'm going to do, because all of my canvas, I've standarded it, sorry, my standard is it's always 5 inches wide. So we're going to splice it in. And the first step is to mark it. I'm going to, let's get this out of the way. Pin it in place. Actually, hang on. Is that wide enough? Yeah, that'll do it. So I've marked it so we have a 5-inch overlap, or a scarf. And let's pin it. There's you can feel the edge right there. Okay, that pin's pretty much dead. Look at it, it's practically bent double. Okay, so I remember I tend to fold back these days to get a little bit of extra support here. Where did my chalk go? I don't see it. Back with it, I'm just going to use my blue chalk. Let's bring it back to about there. I'm always deeply concerned about accidentally cutting the finished cloth, so right, that's out the way. Now I don't have to worry about it right now, but eventually, of course, that'll be pinned back. But I think just because the scissors are in my hand, not that they were at the time, but you know, let's do that. Now, first, so now I'm going to do herringbone stitches back and forth. I'll show you. Here's one I made earlier on the other end. Here's the outside apron. Now I've yet to shape it to its finished length. There's my black chalk. I'm not usually that clumsy. So here's the canvas at the other end, which extends it out to, as you can see, I've already done the mark. So it will be, after I shape the apron, it'll be folded and sewn there. But there you go. You can see the 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 rows of herringbone. And it's quite strong enough. Look, see? By doing a big enough scarf, and again, I've come to find that the width of the cloth, 5 inches, if we have a 5-inch overlap and relatively close sewing, it's absolutely fine. I mean, you could do this with a sewing machine, but it would be a bit of a pain in the backside to juggle the rest of the kilt around as you're running it back through the sewing machine. So why bother? This is quiet and more contemplative than the rest of it. So there we go. Outer apron is done. I shall do the inner apron now. Oh, let's start, shall we? And I won't do this whole thing. I'm just gonna start right now so you can see what I'm doing. For whatever reason, that silly camera on my phone has got the flashlight mode on, so I'm not sure. Let's see how what a difference the extra light while filming makes. I'm just gonna mark. I can feel there's the edge of the cloth, and of course, I'm not gonna sew right up to the edge because why bother? Okay. Now these needles I'm using are called betweens, and they're quite small. Sometimes the size of the eyelet or the eye of the needle gives me a bit of a problem with my old eyes, but whatever. Okay, so I'm just going to start at the edge, sewing a herringbone. Ouch. And each stitch advances looks about half an inch. Those of you who can think in metric can do that conversion, but the size of the pinky, right? Pain in the backside. Now, frankly, I'm going to knock that edge off, that corner off, because my thread keeps catching on it. I don't want to put up with it for the rest of the stitching. Okay. Still catching on it. Right. I'm just going to have to change my angle of approach or something. Okay. Drop down to the next line of stitching. Now, when I finish this, when I've done the herringbone stitches top to bottom, or literally bottom to top, I'll test them by giving a good pull on them. And if you were to do that, give it that pull, and you weren't satisfied with how well it was holding, you could, rather than pick it out, you could you could go over it again, double the number of stitches. And I suppose if you were neat enough, you'd wind up where all these forward slanting lines would in fact be X's if you went over it twice. So you double the number of stitches, and presumably make it a lot, improve its grip. Okay, so I'm just about out of thread. So I'm just going to switch out with a different color thread just because I feel like it. Give the threads a good hard. There we go. Come on. Now, I'm not sure if I showed this before, but this is the way I carry on a seam when I have to cut and wax another piece of thread. Is I double knot it, I pass it through where the last stitch was, and then just a simple overhand knot once, twice, thrice, and now we carry on. Get that pin out of there. And we're drawing the stitches just snug. There's a bit of a pucker there, but it's not very marked. We wouldn't want to draw it so tight that it really puckered, because we want this to lay flat. We can see how I'd previously signed the work. This was August of 2015. So I'll sign it over here. This is, In Glass Diente Me, In Glass Made Me, August 2015. And I don't send my name Ian Glass, Gray-Haired John, anymore. I can't tell you why. I just stopped doing it. So here I'll sign Robert McDonald Repaired Me, March 2025. Be interesting to see how many more names and records of work done get written into this canvas over the lifetime of the kilt. Because this kilt with this wonderful Dalglish cloth, alas now a vintage, now that the mill is closed. This kilt should last a good long time. You can see I've been able to pick up the speed a bit because I'm holding the cloth underneath. Okay. It was quite frosty when I got up this morning at 5 o'clock, and this shop floor is still quite cold. I have my feet up on the crossbar of the table because it's quite cold. Quite eager, quite impatient for the days to warm up. I want to get out on the water. Oh, let's just use a little bit of this red thread just have not much to do at all. splinter in the wood there that caught the thread. I keep meaning to refinish this table surface because it's a bit battered. This was one of the original library tables from the University of British Columbia when their campus was still downtown. So that makes this before, when was the new campus built? The 20s? So yeah, it's about a 100-year-old table. But it was also the work table of a famous local artist, the artist Tony Onley. And we see all these blobs of paint and everything over it. So I'm just enough of a historian that I sort of regard these paint blobs and the gouges and everything else as artifacts. And I don't want to disturb them, but that's perhaps a bit over the top. One last row here. Okay, and a back stitch, and then 1, 2, 3 overhand knot. Pass it through so that, of course, annoyingly, the thread slipped off out of the eye of the needle at just that moment. This is going to be the one time that I don't pass the thread through the eye of the needle with alacrity. Let's do that again. Oh, sawed this. Got to use the old man zoom. There we go. Okay. Couple more passes. There we are. The needle goes away. Excess thread is snipped off. What used to be called the pennant, as in pennant, a flag. There we go. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Look at that. That's just as strong as the rest of the cloth. So there's an effective splice. And now I will base this down. I'm going to fold this back. And I may have to stitch it from the other side because normally this overlap is quite wide and I can stitch the canvas to it, but this is a little bit more narrow. In fact, let's just shorten that a bit so we've got enough space for the lining to be sewn. So there we are. Right. Okay, good. I'm going to stop the vid now. And we'll come back and sew this. And again, I'm going to do that same herringbone stitch, but because I only have a single layer of canvas here, if I do the herringbone stitch from this side, we're going to see great big nasty stitches here. So I'm going to do it as a prick stitch, but I'll tune back in to show you that in a separate video, maybe in a few minutes from now, because it's not yet quitting time. Okay, motion sickness alert.